Technically speaking, technically speaking, I ain't talking vegan when I said that I've been eating, making money on the side, but I use it for the main. I'm speaking in code when I tech talk that financial freedom. Have a seat cause you gon' wanna sit up at my table, yeah. Plugged in that it, girl, IT with the cables, yeah. Network engineering is for you, it ain't no labels, yeah. Shaky with my passion, took a leap, it got me stable, yeah. Now I make 100K or better, paper couldn't fit a stapler, and I spend it on my passion cause I'm capable. Technically speaking, now I'm really talking vegan when I said that I've been eating, I've been technically speaking. Technically speaking, China white. When I've been said I've been technically speaking, said I've been technically speaking, China white.
So NTP, Network Time Protocol. So the whole point of it is it synchronizes the time of day among the set of devices, servers and clients, right? So when you get a computer, when you're logging into work, whether it's remote or at the office, your computer has a time. And where do you see, as you can see right here, like, you know, look at my time, 8:15. Where do I get that time from? Like, who's telling time? So the switch is getting the time. My router's getting the time, is going through the internet, going to a server that is the master timekeeper that will report back to my devices and to me. Okay, so down here, right here, the goal of NTP is to ensure that all computers and networks agree on time. Again, that's all it is. It is how do we tell time digitally on our devices? We can have a clock, we can have a watch, and we can set that time. We can have a watch with maybe at home or something, and we can set that time. But what about something automatic, something via your network? And that protocol is called NTP, right? So NTP uses this system of like a pyramid system, and the top of the clocks are the clocks that are the most accurate, like they are time. And then they go down to another layer to where that's the next best thing to tell time, and then it just keeps going on and keeps going down. So if you're like, let's say a stratum, excuse me. So if your stratum is what we call it and defines reliability and accuracy of NTP source, right? So if you're a stratum 3, then your time is not going to be as much reliable than, let's say, stratum 1. Okay, or stratum 0, right? Stratum 0 is the most reliable, and you're just going to keep going down. I think you're going to go down to like 14 or 13 or something. Oh, it says right here, stratum 15 is the worst reliable, so it goes to 0 to 15. So 0 is the most reliable. You're just going to keep going down to stratum 15. And again, stratum 15 is going to be the least reliable time, like stratum 3 right here. This is, again, not as reliable than stratum 2 or these servers, okay? So with network time protocol, just know that there's a stratum 0, that's the most accurate time. And then that stratum is usually like GPS clocks. That is where that's guaranteed time, right? And then as we keep going throughout the network, some can be a little delayed. Now, that's why you always want to ensure that, hey, you're not just using your time off stratum 15. You actually have servers outside, especially if you're working with at a service provider company, or for a service provider company is what I should say. So right here's a little diagram. It kind of shows you how it works, but again, it's kind of self-explanatory. But as far as client and server is concerned, because that's what's on the CCNA, is us to configure client and server. This is how that
will be. Number 1 is TSU Team Hub. This is where all our hub information is at. This is where you'll go first, and you can ask questions here, create you a nice card with your name on it, and let us know what you're here, what your goals is, so we can help you accomplish that. Okay? The second board you would come up to is how to get a 6-figure job. This is my exact path on how I was able to break into tech and get a 6-figure tech job. even when you got that job, or let's just say you are at a comfortable job, it may not be six figures, maybe, 90K, 80K, something in that sort. And now you're looking into making six figures in your business. You can use this board as well, so we can help you get to that goal with getting six figures in your business, okay, by utilizing technology. And the third one here that everyone mostly is at is the CCNA, or Net Plus exam notes. All right. These are all the exam notes here. And we have it in our boards that you see where it has start, and you see our network fundamentals, network.
So the NTP client initiates a time request to exchange with the server, the NTP server. So the client is saying, hey, I need to update my time. I want to make sure I'm corrected with time. So the client will, whatever you configure is the client server, and which one is the client, I'm gonna say device, and the server device, okay? So that client that you configure will calculate its delay and, initiate some type of offset, some type of, okay, let me correct myself. So once it corrects itself, it will exchange over a period of times with the server, like, okay, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? It does it, it says 6 exchanges over a period of 5 to 10 minutes. So 6 times it's going to keep saying, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? So once 6 times, after 6 times, we've got the correct time, we're synced up, this is my clock. And then they'll start to update it every 10 minutes. Just to ensure that it is up to date. And if it is, and if it's out of date, then it'll do the, 6 changes over again to ensure that it's right. So the client will do that with the server multiple times. What's really big on the exam as well is they will ask you the port number, right? NTP is port 123. That's something that you might want to add in a flashcard. I believe I added it on the Quizlet and virtual flashcards, but for your own sake, definitely make sure that NTP, a port number. Again, there's different variations of the CCNA, but I definitely remember that one. And I remember that one because I studied port numbers, and excuse me, and NTP was something that was very quick for me to just quickly understand, I guess. So I really just paid attention to port number and how it sends through UDP, which is broadcast. So I just had to keep remembering. It was just like, again, playing a memory game. And lo and behold, that came up on the exam, and I'm like, see, I studied for it. So that was something that I knew, like, oh, I got this right. So for me, yes, I was during the question of 5 or 6, I started to get a little more confident because I'm like, oh, I know these questions. And I didn't lose confidence until, it was like 2 minutes until my test was over and I had like 5 questions left. I'm like, man, I'm about to just lose out on questions because I couldn't even finish the exam. But anyway, I digress. Definitely make sure you remember the port number, UDP 123 for NTP, okay? So, and as long as you understand that Stratum 0 is the source, is the ultimate clock, is the most reliable, Stratum 0, and then it can go all the way down, the last one up to Stratum 15, which is not that much reliable. So that's, and the client initiates with the server over a period of time to sync time, right? As long as you can understand that as an NTP kind of like definition, then I mean, that's really all you have to care. All you really have to care about as far as the exam is concerned. I mean, even just going out into like interviews or speaking plainly about NTP, like it's network time protocol. Like there's a client and a server, and they're going to sync with each other to ensure that they agree on time. Right? There's a Stratum 0, that's the most reliable time, and they can go all the way down to up to Stratum 15, which is the not so reliable time. It's not really accurate. So you definitely want to use stratums that are closer to Stratum 0 to get the most reliable time for your network, right? Simple. Now, what do we configure, what do we configure? We're configuring routers. So on the router, we're configuring, is it a server? Is it a client? Or can it operate both server client? Okay. NTP server, just like kind of how we said, it's going to serve the information. So it is the basic source of time. So it's going to serve that information. Excuse me. NTP server client mode. This is basically, let me see. In this mode, router receives updates from NTP server and advertises them from its own interfaces. So yes, it operates both as the ultimate time, and it's going to send out updates from its own interfaces saying, hey, this is the actual time, right? Let me see. In this mode, as an NTP server, instead of using its own NTP source, the router receives NTP updates from another NTP server and advertises NTP updates, which allows us to centralize NTP source and the NTP server. Okay, so basically, it operates as the most accurate time from another NTP server. So server client mode does both. Server mode, like I said, it's just the timekeeper, right? It's just, hey, this is the time, I'm going to serve you that time. And then client mode, it's just going to get that time. It's just going to update and say, hey, what's the time? What's the time? What's the time? What's the time? This is the time. Thank you. And then, it's going to go about its business. Excuse me, synchronize its own clock. So again, we're just configuring these, right? How do you configure server mode? This is the syntax, right? This is the command. Router config. You're in an interface. You're going to say NTP broadcast. Why are you going into an interface? Because you're sending a broadcast. You're saying network time protocol broadcast the time, and you're going to broadcast it out of this interface because maybe there's a loopback or a virtual interface, aka a loopback, that you don't need the NTP to the server mode to broadcast time. So you need to do it on the interfaces that are connected to the devices you want to broadcast to. So you would go into an interface and put in NTP. You're going to start off with, hey, we're talking about time, and broadcast that. Very simple. For the server and client mode, you're going to go do the same thing for server. You're going to initiate that NTP broadcast, right? And then you have, hold on, do we have to go in here? By default mode, the router uses its own clock as NTP source. Okay, so you would actually have to go in and put in the server that you're getting the NTP information from, right? Because we're building as a client server mode, it's not going to use its own as the ultimate time. It's going to get it from an actual router that's configured as a server to get the time. And then it's going to also act as a client and updates its own clock and sends it out through its interfaces to update who's ever connected to that router. So again, you're going to go into the interface, put an NTP broadcast, just as you was with NTP server. And then you're going to go in, you're going to put NTP server and say what's the IP address of the server that you're getting your ultimate time from, right? And then client mode, you can kind of guess that, hey, you're just going to go in and say, this is where I'm going to get my ultimate time from, which is NTP server and the IP address of it. And you're going to go to the interface and put NTP broadcast client, right? So it's just these, let me see, one, that's the same, 1, 2. So it's only 3 commands that you really have to remember for NTP. You're going to say, hey, how do I configure it for client mode? Let's start with server. How do I configure for server mode? NTP broadcast. All right. How do I configure it for client mode? NTP broadcast client. And you're going to put an NTP server. Where do I get the time from? Because when we do NTP server, we're only putting NTP broadcast because this this router is the most accurate time. So this router must be connected to a stratum that's, is most reliable. So that one is the timekeeper. Okay, so all we wanted to do is broadcast. And that's it. And the client needs to figure out, so where do I get this from? Well, you're gonna put the server, NTP server IP address here. So it's pretty simple, and it's simple when you actually go into a lab.